Hello, everyone. My name is Kevin Berry. I'm a firefighter for the South Lake Fire Department. Today, the topic I'll be talking about is the explosion that happened west in Texas. The reason why this kind of touches home with me is that 12 firemen were killed during that explosion. And the other thing that happened was the honor guard from our department actually stayed overnight with the firemen who died in the explosion at Baylor Grapevine Medical Center. So I wanted to go ahead and talk about this with you. So let's get started. All right, this is the Texas explosion of 2013 that happened in West Texas. This is the aftermath. So on April 17, 2013, an ammonium nitrate explosion occurred at the West Fertilizer Company storage and distribution facility in West Texas, 18 miles north of the Waco, Texas. 15 people were killed, more than 160 were injured, and more than 150 buildings were damaged or destroyed. Investigators have confirmed that ammonium nitrates was the material that exploded. The explosion. This was the explosion caught from 3 different angles. It's pretty intense. See, 2 of the cameras were taken down. Most likely got knocked out and weren't working anymore. Dr. Smith was one of the heroes at the Texas explosion. Dr. Smith was in a nearby nursing home when the explosion occurred. Dr. Smith prepared healthcare workers for the possibility of a fire at the fertilizer plant prior to the incident. Dr. Smith spearheaded the West disaster response effort. Under his direction, emergency response personnel evacuated the area and treated injuries in less than 3 hours. As the medical director of a local health and human services department disaster medical assistant team, DMAT, based in Texas, Dr. Smith had significant training in disaster response prior to explosion, which later on in the next slide you'll see why it was such an important. One of the most important things that we have to take when a disaster occurs is we have to figure out what did we learn. So during the explosion that took place in West Texas, Dr. Smith went over having a plan in place helps. He stated that the actual plan wasn't set for an explosion but for a fire. But when the explosion occurred, it collapsed half the nursing home. So he had to alter his plans and adapt and overcome. But he's saying having a plan in place in the first place helped him get through it. The second is training. One of the biggest things that he pushed was the training. He had been trained in an emergency response, so when it actually happened, he had an idea of what to do, even if they didn't train for that exact incident. The next is this catastrophe could happen nearly anywhere in the nation, which is pretty crazy if you think about it. Ammonium nitrate it's transported in semi trucks, it's transported on rail cars. So how many jobs, or your job where you work, is there railroads, is there highways near them? So it can pretty much happen almost anywhere in the United States, which is pretty crazy. To get to know their city regional trauma advisor and city and county emergency manager directors, as they will be in charge during a disaster. So it's always good to know who you're going to talk to, who's going to be in charge, and how to contact them. So that's one key note that we learned from this incident. Another incident that happened was that the nursing home director couldn't get into the area because as soon as a incident happens of that magnitude, they're going to block off most of the streets leading into it. So the director came to a blocked road and they wouldn't let her come in because she had no ID that identifies her as a physician or anything, so she wasn't allowed in. So if you're a doctor going to help, or you're on the incident management team, or if anything, if you don't have an ID, they might not let you get through. So one of the big keys takeaways would be to always make sure that you have a healthcare ID or some type of ID. Another issue that he had, that he realized that it's crucial for any disaster readiness plan is an emergency communication plan. So when the blast happened, it knocked out most of the radio towers, so there was no cell phone usage. He actually had to get on a helicopter satellite phone, and that's where he was able to call and contact for help. So this is okay. So we get to the aftermath. Most of West Texas has recovered. Most infrastructure, most of the buildings has been built back, so they're doing okay in that aspect. 5 years after the incident, the lives were lost will never sit at ease. You know, a lot of the stories there talks about the people who died, the 12 firemen, the volunteer firemen who died. You know, everyone that was affected and their families. You know, will never sit at ease with anybody. One of the big things was the ATF ruled that the fire was set intentionally, so they believe it was actually a criminal investigation. And so far, no suspects have been found. So we don't know if this case will ever get solved, but that's it. All right. Thank you for your time. I hope you enjoyed the presentation about the West Texas explosion. Hope we learned a little bit about it and what we've learned from it, so that we can be ready for the incidents to come in the future, because we know we can't prevent it, but we got to be ready for it.